I'm taking pictures of two of my succulents today. These look very similar and they look very different at the same time. So I'm going to go through each one and just kind of show you and talk you through what has happened with it. So this particular plant, let's see, it was pruned. Okay, so it was pruned in February of 2023. And then you can see I've watered and fertilized it since then, and it was growing really well. It had a lot of great sprouts on it. Let's start here at the beginning. So here's how it looked when it was first planted in 2021. And then I chopped it. So it was a completely bare stem. I wasn't sure if anything was going to grow on it. It's hit or miss. Some succulents will grow, sometimes they won't. But actually, if you look, if we zoom in on this one, you can actually see there is some new little growth, some new babies starting there. So then just a few weeks later, it had a bunch of growth and even more. And within a month, it was looking pretty good. And it continued to keep growing. It's been growing really well. Okay, so this last picture was taken in April, and it is now August. And it obviously doesn't look as good. Now, the reason for that, let's see if we can get a little close up here. The reason for that is when I moved from Arizona to Utah, all of my succulents were without water for about 3 weeks, which for a lot of succulents is not a big deal. But for this, I had been watering it very, very frequently. I'm not totally sure if the watering average won't reflect that just because it does it for the whole history of the plant. But let's go back here in June. So you can see it was, well, it maybe wasn't great. It was like every 2 weeks. So maybe that watering average is accurate. I was trying to water it more frequently and it was doing okay. But that 3 weeks with very little water and with no water and very little light, it didn't pan out super well for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a picture to add to my collection so I can just show the history. Ooh, that is not doing well. 1 second. Okay, there we go. Better picture. So now that I have that updated, now I have this record of the photos, and it is a really sad transition here, but there is still stuff growing on it. And actually you can see the tablecloth's wet because I just watered this a couple days ago, 2 days ago. So there's still a little water in the tray, but I do think that this is still going to survive. I think these babies will keep growing. So I am excited about that. So then let's transition to this little guy. This one I believe was pruned about the same time. So let's pull it up and take a look. It was pruned. Well, maybe not. Did I forget to put it in here? That would be fun. That happens sometimes. Okay, let's go back to the photo history. We'll see if I've got it there. Oh yeah, this one has been around the block. So most of the plants in it died. I think, yeah, you can see here, it's right in the middle. This one's really had a rough history. But that's why it doesn't show that it was pruned, because it was pulled out of a bigger arrangement. So here's what it looked like on the 25th of February. And you can see it's actually not that different. So it's been about the same size since then. I noticed I did fertilize it. When was that? A couple months ago. I fertilized it in March. I think it's time to be fertilized again. But as you can see, this one fared a lot better than the other one during that time of drought. And I believe the reason for that is because it was already so much more well established. These little rosettes were a lot bigger. Of course, you can see there are some dried up leaves. So it did struggle a little bit during that period of drought, but it's still surviving. So again, with this one, we're just going to add to that photo history, and we'll see what happens with it over time, and see if I can get it to actually grow and have those reach full plant maturity to a point where we'll like cut them off and replant them on their own. So It's really fascinating to me to see succulents in similar positions and how they change over time, and how essentially the same climate can affect two succulents very differently. I don't have the names of either of these. They're both a type of Echeveria or some sort of Echeveria or Grapto hybrid, but I don't know for sure. But I do know enough that they're ones that as they get into adulthood will not like to be overwatered, but right now as they're growing these babies, they will need to be watered a bit more frequently. So whereas this one is showing average watering every 14 days, if I can do this maybe every 10 days, I wouldn't go up to a week, just because, like I said, Echeverias are very prone to overwatering and getting rot. But I think I could do every 10 days. And if I did that, these should grow a little bit faster. Adding some fertilizer will help them grow a little bit more too. And then we will start to have much larger and still very beautiful plants.